Got your Newcastle-under-Lyme driving test booked? In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you 5 roundabouts and 3 danger zones that driving test examiners use every single day, plus the habits that make or break a first-time pass. Let's go. The Newcastle Driving Test Centre sits here in this cosy little industrial estate in the parklands on Clayton Lane. It has around 7 very friendly driving test examiners. In fact, it's one of my favourite driving test centres, if not my favourite. There is also a very friendly car park that you can see here with a nice one-way entrance in and one-way entrance out. Nice, easy place to park if you're coming for your driving test. Far better than others that I know of. Yet, just approximately 42% of learners actually walk out of their driving test in Newcastle with a pass, compared to the UK average of 47%, so it's a little bit lower than we'd like. Preparation, not luck, flips those odds, and that's what this video is for. Now, the most nervous you are going to be on your driving test is those first 5 minutes at the very beginning. So it's really important that you actually practice this area leaving the test centre. So that's what we're going to have a look at first. Now, the first thing is, as we exit the test centre, make sure that we have a quick glance left and right. Pretty standard, I know, but when those nerves are kicked in, it's very easy just to drive out without looking. Now we're going to start with the hardest exit from the test centre. If we are to turn left out of the test centre, we're going to very quickly be at the end of the road where we're going to be asked to turn right. Now, this is quite a busy junction. It's got busier since they built this bloody Aldi on the corner here. So make sure you practice exiting here, turning right a few times under low pressure, so when you actually have to do it on your driving test, you're not quite as panicky. The far easier version of this is actually to turn left towards the crossroads. Again, just make sure there's space before going. Look for people indicating. If no one's indicating, don't assume they're turning. And then the final one, instead of turning left at the test centre, we actually turn right, following it round to Parklands, which will lead us onto the A34. Now, this is a left only. There should be signs just to show you it's a left only, so keep an eye on that. Have a go so there's no surprises. What I will say with this is, as I mentioned before, it is a dual carriageway. It is a 40-mile-per-hour road, so your first objective is going to be get up to speed with the traffic. Next, we're going to look at the 5 must-know roundabouts if you're taking a driving test in Newcastle. Now, anyone will tell you if you can drive, you should be able to pass your driving test anywhere. And in theory, they are correct. However, having a bit of insider knowledge is going to massively boost your confidence, increasing your chances of passing your driving test. Now, because I've got my driving license, in theory, I should be able to drive from here all the way down to Cornwall, through London, without making a single mistake. But I've never done that before. So chances are I'm going to make a few mistakes, the same as anyone else would. I would feel far more comfortable making that journey had I made it once or twice before already. And this is exactly the same. We're just building confidence. Okay, and the first must-know roundabout is called Poole Dam Roundabout. It is one of the 5 roundabouts in the centre of Newcastle. Now, this first one's a slight cheat because, yes, you really need to know Poole Dam Roundabout, but if I were you, I would be doing all 5 roundabouts around the centre of Newcastle a few times, anti-clockwise, so you go through Poole Dam Roundabout because it is one of the toughest ones in Newcastle. It catches a lot of people out. If you can go around those 5 roundabouts repeatedly without any issues, this is going to make sure that you've got a lot of the skills that you need for your Newcastle-under-Lyme driving test. The next one, and probably the most important in Newcastle, because it catches everyone out, I will take people to this roundabout just before their test if there's time, because it's an absolute pain in the backside. It's bad enough for people that have passed their test, let alone people that are learning to drive, and that is, of course, Basford Roundabout. The problem with this roundabout is it's right on a slope. It's halfway as you go around the roundabout, it's going downhill, which makes you want to speed up. And because every other Tom, Dick and Harry is flying around the roundabout, makes you feel like you should as well. People end up often either missing the lane or going in the wrong lane. It's just a very anxiety-inducing roundabout. So my biggest bit of advice, practice this until you can do it with your eyes closed. Don't close your eyes doing it. Don't do that. That'd be bad. But the main thing with this roundabout is coming from Newcastle, turning right, following the slip road, 4th exit onto the A500. This is the main thing you need to practice. And very similar to Basford Roundabout is Hanford Roundabout. Again, a very unusual roundabout. I've taken many a person training to be driving instructors and they end up getting this roundabout wrong. It's just one of those, if you don't know it, it's really confusing because you enter the roundabout and 2 lanes split into 4 lanes and you don't know which one. Now, obviously I'm squeezing a lot into this little video, so if you do want any more details about any specific one of these roundabouts or driving test routes, have a look at my website, Josh the Driving Instructor. There's a free route on there for you, or you can have a look at the whole package, which will give you everything you need to really nail down the confidence you need to pass your driving test first time. And we'll up that 42% to 60-70% pass rate. But to give you a quick look at Hanford Roundabout, the easiest way to do this is follow the middle lane, which will take you round to the outside of the roundabout where you're next to the curb. And the golden rule, anytime you're going around a roundabout and you're next to the curb, you need to stay on the outside by the curb. This means on this roundabout, we are staying on the outside, following it right round the outside of the roundabout. When you try this, you're going to see it feels quite uncomfortable, it feels unusual, it feels weird. And that's why you need to keep practicing it. But if you study the road markings, you will see this is the correct way to do it. The next one is the Keele roundabout. This is a fairly new roundabout, it's been fairly updated, but again, it's another spiral style roundabout. The golden rule with this is just stay in your lane. A spiral roundabout is just a roundabout like a snail shell, where you start in the middle and it spirals you outwards and outwards and outwards and outwards. So if we're turning right on a spiral roundabout, Keele's a perfect example. We would hug the roundabout, follow around the roundabout, and just follow your lines. Just stay in your lines, that's it. And the lines will lead you to the outside of the roundabout after the second exit. And that's it. No, but practice this a few times, because some people really struggle with the idea of spiral roundabouts, especially if they're not used to them. Golden rule, stay in your lane, stay in the lines. And the final roundabout that's worth practicing is Milehouse Roundabout. It's just a very, very busy roundabout. Pretty simple. If you're asked to turn right, use the right lane, exit off as it's safe to do so. Just look out, make sure you're looking for space. Just practice it a bit, really. Build your confidence. When there's no pressure, then when you ask to do it on your driving test, it's not going to be quite as bad. Golden rule, if you're turning right on a dual carriageway roundabout, meaning a roundabout where there's two lanes, try and exit in the left lane if it's safe to do so. If it's not safe, then fine, you are fine coming off in the right lane. But ideally, you'd be trying to exit in the left lane on a dual carriageway, two-lane style roundabout. And what I mean by this is all of the 5 roundabouts in the center of Newcastle are just like this. Okay, next we are going to look at the most important danger zones that you have to know if you're going for your driving test, because they will be in your driving test. And again, I focused on zones with this rather than routes, because they could incorporate lots of different routes into these zones we haven't got all day. But if you want more info, you know where to go. Website, description. And the first must-know area in Stoke-on-Trent is the Stoke one-way system, purely because it's scary, it's anxiety-inducing, it's just not something you want to see for your first time on your driving test. You would be far better and far more confident if you have driven around it a few times just to get comfortable. It's also just really, really busy and you've got multiple lanes. You just need to have a good idea of what's going on. Also practice entering the Stoke one-way system from London Road, because there is a giveaway sign that a lot of people have missed and failed their driving test because they just drove straight through. Meow! Not good. Not good for anyone. Next must-know area is Wolstanton. This seems to be used more and more at the moment. Just a very tight, narrow road everywhere. Very, very busy. Much slower than normal than most roads. Just because there's lots of traffic, lots of meeting car situations. Really good place to practice your meeting traffic and tight roads if you're not comfortable with that situation. Highly recommend. This one is key. You can find this on my website as well if you want more detail. But the main thing is 3 Mile Lane. Keele, 3 Mile Lane, I can't say it enough. This route is used every single day. It's the main rural route in Newcastle-under-Lyme. Doesn't matter which way you go, but at the moment, they're going from the left side, from Whitmore, heading 3 Mile Lane towards Keele. If you're not comfortable with rural roads, you need to practice this, because most of the roads around here are national speed limit. Lots of them are national speed limit, but they're not all safe to do 50+ miles per hour. Some you need to do maybe 20 around a few corners, 30 in other areas, 40 in other areas. And if you turn up to your driving test and get this test route for your first time and you're not comfortable on rural roads, you've got no chance. Keele, 3 Mile Lane, practice. Let me know in the description if you've had a go and what your thoughts are of this route. And of course, the prime time, the glory of Newcastle-under-Lyme is the A500. This is a motorway style dual carriageway, meaning it's got slip roads basically. It's a dual carriageway with slip roads. You have to practice these, okay? It's highly likely that you're going to get slip roads on your driving test. Not guaranteed, but highly likely. So you need to practice using the slip roads onto the A500, being able to get up to speed and meet the traffic and comfortably enter into the traffic while checking your blind spot and yeah, you just need to make sure you practice all the skills that you need to enter the A500. And also think about practicing all of these during a similar time to your test. You know, if your test is at 8 AM or 4 PM, it's going to be much busier than, you know, a test at say 1 or 2 o'clock or 11 o'clock. So there's no point practicing, well, there's not as much point practicing these at the opposite times if your driving test is at a really busy time or really quiet time, because the environment's going to be completely different. Okay, so what are the driving test examiner's biggest pet hates? What are the marking faults? What's the main thing that people fail for in Newcastle-under-Lyme? And I'll tell you, the first and most important one is the same at every test centre in the country. And that is changing direction without checking mirrors. And it's really not that complicated. I think it's more just nerves get people and then we panic and forget. But basically, if your car's moving this way, you need to check this way, this mirror. And if your car's moving that way, you need to check this mirror, and that's it. That's all you've got to do. So if you're on a roundabout and you decide you need to change lanes, okay, probably shouldn't, but if you need to, check your mirrors. If, you know, you're going down a road and you need to change lanes that way, then check that mirror. If you do that, you're far more likely to pass your driving test. It's that simple. If you go around a parked car, check your central right mirror. Perfect. And that's it. That's the #1 reason that people fail their driving test. So if you can practice that, you are going to be absolutely set. The next big reason that people fail their driving test is known as the blind spot check. And this is any time you're parked on the side of the road, and bear in mind, you're going to be parked on the road between 4 and 5 times you're going to be asked to pull over. And each time, the examiner's going to say, right, when it's safe to do so, pull off. Doing a full, oh my God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-point freaking check, God knows what, you don't need to do it. You need to use your common sense. If you're parked on the side of the road and there's a hedge there, and you know there's nothing, you don't need to search all around the car, okay? Some driving instructors will insist, whatever, you don't need to. The examiner's not interested in pretend looking, all right? You need to use your common sense. Where's the danger coming from? The roadside. For the roads here, that's where you need to be looking, central. It's not gonna do any harm to check all the mirrors. It takes a second, boom, 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 boom. Shoulder check. Over the shoulder, can you see anything here? Because if you look in that mirror and there's a bike or a car right here on the driveway across the road, you're not going to see that in this mirror. You're not going to see anything unless you physically turn your head and look over that shoulder. That's what's important. Looking over that right shoulder. If you do that, there's not going to be any issues with pulling off from the side of the road. Another big fail that seems to happen in Newcastle-under-Lyme is because it's quite a clear area, there's much less meeting traffic, is lots of people can either fail for going too slow or too fast. Too fast is pretty easy. Golden rule, street lights equals 30. If you see street lights, it's 30 miles per hour until you see a sign saying otherwise. If you don't see any signs, it's 30. If there are no street lights, it's national speed limit. Now, often people don't see any street lights and they just stay at 40, and this is particularly the Keele route, the 3-mile lane route. And if they stay at 40 all the way without getting up to speed, you're going to slow all the cars down, you're going to end up building faults and they're going to fail you. I've seen it loads of times. If you want to see this route in more details, it's all on my website, by the way. Now, there is one caveat where there's a 20-mile-per-hour zone, but it does clearly label everywhere you look. You can't look anywhere without seeing a 20-mile-per-hour sign of some form, either on the road or somewhere, so you shouldn't be missing that. Apart from that though, 30 miles per hour if there's street lights until you see a 40 or 50 sign. Because if it is a 40 or 50 zone, there will be lots of signs within 5 to 10 seconds to let you know. And you're not going to fail your driving test for going 30 in a 40 for 5-10 seconds, I can promise you that. The main other thing I would be focusing if you are in Newcastle-under-Lyme, although there isn't as much, I would be focusing on my meeting traffic skill. Just make sure you are comfortable going around parked cars. As I mentioned before, Wolstanton is a very good area for this, but essentially, if you can keep a solid door's width between you and any other object, any other car, parked car, moving car, you should be okay doing 30 miles per hour. If it is a door's width or less, I would be halving my speed. Now, that's not a solid rule. You may need to go much slower than halving your speed. But the important thing is you need a door's width to be doing close to the speed limit. If you are not a door's width, you are not safe to be getting up to full speed. And that, my friends, is the blueprint for passing your driving test in Newcastle. Loop the 5 roundabouts in the centre of Newcastle, include those spiral roundabouts that we talked about, practice those danger zones, and fix the examiner red flags. There is a free checklist guide that you can get here, or you can go on my website if you want to see the test routes. They are just going to boost your confidence massively before your driving test. It's that simple. Drop a comment if you need some help, if you just want a bit of help with your Newcastle driving test. I'm here for you, and let us know how you get on. Boom!